Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Liz. Hey, Tim.
How you doing?
Hey, Jen. Hey, Paula. Nancy, Mark, Darlene, Elizabeth, Jeff, BJ, Mike.
Okay.
I'm just giving other mentors just another minute or two to jump on before I get started. Oh, nice. So I wanted to do this Zoom a little early in the year so that you could all know what we're doing with the juniors. This is basically what we're going to be doing with them over the next all the way until August, actually, getting them ready for senior year. Everything that we do is to help them prepare themselves so they're not as stressed out or having issues. Senior year can definitely be very only overwhelming for a student to the point where it puts procrastination at another level because we give them a checklist of everything they need to do, and then they see how long this checklist is, and they're like, "Oh no, I have to do this on top of all my normal classes and normal homework and work and activities." And it can be very stressful. We just had a meeting this past Monday. It was early dismissal. We actually had the juniors here for about 2 to 3 hours working on one piece of senior year, and it took them the 2 to 3 hours. It's the SSAR. It's the Student Self-Reported Academic Record, and every some of the big schools here in Florida, like the University of Florida, FSU, and UCF, actually require it. But what it is taking their transcript, putting it into a portal, putting in each one of their final grades, and it sounds simple enough, but the system is very old and outdated where it can be glitchy, it can mess up. It only takes specific courses, otherwise they have to type in manually what their course was. It took them about an hour and a half. And so when I told them this is only one step, they all started panicking. But this is why we start so early. So even though we are barely in February, there's so much that they can do now to get ready for next year. So Anita and Esmeralda are going to walk them through all of these steps. I wanted to share them with all of you so you could see what they're doing. As always, I gotta give a shout out to my team, Anita, Esmeralda, Islam. They do a great job with the kids. They make my life a whole lot easier, and they're always looking out for them and doing what they can. If you know us, we're always tweaking. We're always making adjustments to try to make things better than we did them last year. So what the students are actually doing now that they're also going to get is they're going to get an introduction into FAFSA and FSAID. Next month, we're going to bring in the juniors and all of their parents to create their FSA IDs, their FAFSA accounts, so that way they can actually start to know if they're going to run into any issues, how can we get it fixed? The biggest issue that comes with the new FAFSA, for anyone who hasn't experienced it before with another mentee, is that the FAFSA requires an FSA ID from student and parent. To create an FSA ID, you need to have a social security number. Um, some of you already know that some of our students' parents don't have social security numbers. All of our students do. It is a requirement to work with our program, but some of the parents don't. So they have to go to the process of verifying their identity and that they're saying who they say they are to the IRS and to the FSA portal administrative people. Sometimes it can be quick. It only takes like a day or two. Other times we do once a week phone calls for 1 to 2 months, trying to get an answer and trying to get a response. It really depends on the student. Luckily, This year was nowhere near as bad as last year. Last year, Anita and I were on hold with these people from FSA and FAFSA for an hour or two, and then they couldn't give us an answer, and then we had to try again another day. It was, oh my gosh. But this year, what really shocked me is when I would call, I'd get an answer within like 5 to 10 minutes. I was put on hold, but that hold was released really quickly. So we talked to people, we made sure they all had them, but the juniors are going to go through this now. If they're having any issues with taxes, if they're having any issues with the IRS linking up with the FAFSA application and bringing it all together, we'll work through with that. We'll work through it with them on that, and that way we can know what it is. Every junior the other day on Monday created their own FSA ID with their information. We had them bring their social security card into the campus. We had them go onto the portal. The biggest piece was inputting their cell phone number and email address, and reminding the students that it does need to be something consistent. If they ever change their phone number, if they ever change their email, they need to go into their account and switch it, because FAFSA requires two-step authorization. Oh, sorry, 1 second. So with two-step authorization, they'll get a text or an email with a 6-digit code that they then have to put into their login. But if they change phone numbers or if they change emails, that's where it gets tricky. And if they don't have access to either of those, then we have to make a phone call to FSA and get the students reauthorization of access. So after the students made their account, we had them each fill out a little slip of paper, and then we put it in our file, securely put away, so that come August, we can give it back to them and say, this is exactly what you made it. Here are your answers. Here are your username, your password, and your 3 security questions and their answers that you made back in February. This makes life a whole million times easier. We'll do the same thing with parents come March. With parents, what can be tricky is if the student had an older sibling who went to college, who did a technical school, who at one point in their life filled out a FAFSA for them and their parent. If that sibling lost the FSA ID, we have to make a phone call. If the parent changed their phone number or their email, then it causes that issue. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just for a quick second. Oh no, it's not letting me. Okay, there you go.
And Daniel, can I ask,
Go ahead, PJ.
do both parents have to, if there are two parents, do both parents have to have an FSA ID?
So it depends on how they're filing their taxes.
Okay, got it. Yes.
But what we typically need is just one parent, and it's whoever's providing the most support financially to the child.
Okay.
So if the parents are split up, typically we only need the person they're living with, or whoever's providing the most financial aid support for them with housing, food, any other costs or anything like that. We haven't run into an issue before. If they're married filing jointly on their taxes, we can use either or, because since the taxes are synced up together, the FAFSA information will also be synced up.
Thank you.
So this is a presentation we shared to the students when they were making it. And so we actually walked them through the step by step, creating their account, putting out their personal information, their contact information. For contact information, it was a lot. They had to create their username, email, phone number, mailing address, and they'll also say, you know, if they want any emails or texts from the portal. And then, of course, their security questions. So all of that, they wrote onto that piece of paper and then filled out the answers. And of course, like I mentioned, the 2-factor authorization, so that way, in case they ever lose access to anything, they can get back in. Once they finish that, which took them all day on Monday, along with the SSAR, we're actually gonna start teaching them about recommendation letters and counselor requests. So This past year, one of the things that was big with Simmons, Jake Simmons is the counselor at Immokalee High School for seniors, colleges, and career prep, as well as military. He kind of handles all the transcripts being sent out to schools, the information getting sent to the students. So he has a lot on his plate. One of the big things, since seniors like to procrastinate so much, is that he would get many emails the day things were due at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So he actually emailed all the seniors about a week ago saying, if you're going to ask me for something, at least ask a day in advance. Don't ask me the night of at 11 o'clock at night. I've already put my kids to bed. I'm already going to bed. I can't log into a portal remotely and then send it off. So what we're talking to the juniors about now is getting to the recommenders ahead of time, showing them that, you know, it is something that can be done very far in advance. Pretty much everything that they're going to apply to requires at least one recommendation letter. So we're highlighting the importance of it, especially with identifying the right recommender. So sometimes students will find someone who they're just close to, who they talk a lot to, but that's not always the best recommender for them. So it's about talking to the student about someone who really knows what your strengths are, what your skills are, how you've grown, so that they can talk more about you and really appeal to the school about who you are as a person. So there's teachers, there's coaches, there's mentors, and there's site supervisors. So you guys may get a request from your mentee saying, hey, can you write my recommendation letter? If your student tells you the day it's due, tell them no. And tell them I told you to say that. If you'd like to, if you're willing to do that at the last minute, thank you. God bless you. For our end, we always tell them you should ask them ahead of time, and we even tell them a timeline. This is what they're going to get in the next few weeks. So identifying, asking, providing background information. What we're also going to tell students is attach a copy of your resume to your when you're asking your recommender. That way they know what you do when you're not in front of them. The friendly reminder, and most importantly, sending a thank you card afterwards to whoever recommends them. And then, of course, just a checklist, and we also even give them a template of a thank you card. That'll happen most likely at the end of March. But then, once that's complete, we'll get started on what's known as the Common App. If you've never worked with a senior before, the Common App is a portal and website that the students can utilize where they can fill out one application and they can pretty much send it to all of their schools now. When I was in high school back in 2015, there was probably 2 or 3 schools that I knew of that I was going to apply to that were on Common App. Now, virtually every school is on the Common App. They only have to fill it out once. They may have to fill out some additional questions, but typically they're all on there and then they can submit it all at once. It's very convenient. It's very easy to use. What we're going to have them do is create their accounts now, start working on it, and then that way, once August or September roll around, they're able to just hit the ground running and send it off to all of their schools. What we will collect with them, because as you know, even just people in general create emails, create passwords, and then forget what it was. I know I'm very guilty of it. I have to download an app so that I can finally remember what all my passwords were. But I technically don't remember them. They're in my app. But we'll also collect this paper along with their FAFSA information. So that way the students will know come August, hey, what's my email? What's my password? What did I put on there? I don't remember. This way they don't have to start all over if they forgot it.
Daniel, I have a question. My mentee mentioned that she's doing the, I think it's through LEAD or like for the Ivy League schools, and she's doing it. Is she doing that on the Common App too? Like, is that the same process?
She's doing, what was the name of it?
It's for the Ivy League schools.
Oh, I think you're talking about LEADA.
Yeah, LEADA, there you go.
Okay, so Leadership Enterprise for a Diverse America is a program that we're having a few of the juniors apply to. It's a highly selective program, but it does increase their likelihood of getting into an Ivy League. It's very competitive, so we only had a few select students complete it based on GPAs, test scores, and their ability to socialize, because once they get into the program at summer, it's very intensive, not just academically, but with social and networking events. So that's separate from Common App. That one's it's only for the summer after their junior year.
Daniel, the Common App doesn't reduce the cost of applications to each school, does it?
No, so most of our students, because they qualify for free reduced lunch, when they're filling out the Common App, they check a box that says I qualify for free reduced lunch, and then they can send them off for free.
Okay.
Any other questions before I keep going?
Daniel, I have a
Oh.
question. It used to be on the, some schools required supplemental essays beyond the Common App. Is that still the case?
So the way the schools do it now, they upload their questions into the Common App. So once a student has filled out their base application and they selected their schools, they'll have a little tab that says supplemental questions, and then they fill it out on there. It's a really handy dandy tool. Anita and I have been looking at it every year for the last several years, and it's amazing how far they've come. They even upload their teachers' information so that the teacher can remotely put in their recommendation letter. Same for counselors and transcripts. And if they ask you for a recommendation letter, you'll get an email saying, hey, so-and-so has invited you to be the recommender. Can you follow this link, create an account, and submit the letter that you have created? It's amazing. Back in the day, students had to apply one at a time to every single school, constantly filling out the same information. This is just very convenient. All right, I'll keep going. So the next one is something that the students actually already started working on, and it's something that Anita came up with this year, and I gotta say, it is gonna be a game changer. Oops, sorry, I don't know why I still have that in there. That was a glitch on my end. But this is known as the College Admission Score Tracker. Every junior of ours got this piece of paper in their class meeting last week and the week before. Some of them haven't finished it, but what we've been doing is we've been collecting it. We provide every student their SAT score and ACT score that we were able to pull from their database and their portal, and as well as the little breakdown, so reading and math for SAT, and then reading, math, English, and science for ACT. The reason I say this is really important is because they got their GPA, they got their test scores, and then what we had them do is look up their top schools. We had them find the information for UF, for FSU, for FGCU, for Arcadia, for whatever school they were interested in. We had them put them in these rows. We had them search up what is the acceptance rate for that school, and what is the average GPA, ACT, or SAT score that that school typically takes in with their middle 50%. The reason I say this is a game changer is because the students are going to see now how much different is it that they're going to see. This is an old draft, but we also put in a little classification to the right to label the school as a reach school, a just right school, or a safety school. This way, the students can determine for themselves, is this school a reach school for myself? Is it a just right school, or is it a safety school? Anita collected all of them from the students. We're actually going to provide them with feedback to let them know, hey, you may have thought that this school was a just right school, but it's actually a reach school for you. So you're going to want to buff up your test scores or your GPA. Or in some cases, the students were like, this is my my just right school. And it was actually a safety school for that student, and letting them know you actually passed these qualifications by a significant amount that we've seen students pretty much get in if they have your history. And then once they get to sit down and actually look at those numbers, they'll be able to see, you know, how much time do I have to put into studying? What resources can I utilize? What test date am I going to aim for? And that way the students can decide for themselves, you know, how much effort am I going to put into this? We know the students have a lot on their plate with activities, with work, with homework, with family obligations. But if they're even able to dedicate a little bit more time to their studying, to their habits than they normally do, then it can be a huge difference in the long term.
Daniel,
Go
Tim,
ahead.
I see you only have 3 lines there for schools. What's the number that typical tutor core kid applies to for colleges these days with you?
9.
Oh, gosh.
We usually have them apply to 3 reach schools, 3 just right, and 3 safety.
Oh,
Is that coached by you or do they get coaching from their guidance counselor? I know you said at one point there's only 1 counselor for all those kids, so it's tough.
So they do get a little bit from the high school, but they get coaching as well from myself, from Anita, and Esmeralda also jumps in on those too.
Good.
Yeah, Daniel, is it possible to get a copy of this for our mentees? You know,
Yes,
what their
so,
fit sheet looks
yeah,
like?
so that's what we're working on now. There's a few students who haven't finished theirs, but once we get them all filled out and collected, my goal is to email each of you your mentees paper. Yeah, I would have been, unfortunately, not all of them were able to finish it because some had activities this past Monday. So not all of them were able to finish it, but I'm hoping to have it done within the next week or 2. Um,
Hey, Daniel. could
Go
you
ahead, Mike.
Just provide some perspective. And I don't want to make this about my mentee, but just as an example, I talked with him on Monday and he shared with me, under duress, his ACT score that he just got and his GPA. And he also told me that his top school that he wanted to go to was UCF. University of Central Florida. When you look up the average GPA and the average ACT at that school for admission, he is so far off from that. So I guess my question is there something like the equivalent of special dispensation for people who are applying from Immokalee because of their, say, social circumstances? Or if it's not near the average, it immediately becomes a big reach for him.
So there are a few programs that reduce the requirements. They're typically first generation programs or minority student led programs where they'll actually reduce the admissions criteria for a university. For example, the University of South Florida has what's known as the CAMP program. It's a program for students who are or have ever been classified as migrant in their life. It doesn't matter if it took place in kindergarten, 5th grade, 10th grade, whatever it is, if they were ever classified as migrant in their life, the requirement for USF drops down from a 1050, I believe it was, to a 920. And the GPA went down from, if I'm remembering correctly, I could be a little bit off, but it dropped it down from like a 3.2 down to like a 3.0. There are those kinds of programs that exist at every school. For example, FSU has the CARES program. Those work with any first generation or minority student, and they also provide additional financial aid for students 4 years in school. For UCF, I believe it's called Knights First when it comes to the first generation program. And then UF has, I haven't seen one yet that helps with admissions criteria, but they do have a program known as the Matching Scholars Program, where if a student such as ours gets into the university with their GPA and their test scores, but they're coming from a town such as ours where their income is less than, I believe, $55,000 a year, they actually provide a full ride package to that student, full cost of attendance. So each school is different in its own way, but we know each one of those. So when we say like that, we give coaching to the students for their 3 reach, 3 safety, and 3 just right, we'll actually tell them, hey, this is a program that you need to also fill out the application for, or hey, this is there's a checkbox that you need to fill out on the application. Make sure you hit it when you're applying, and we'll actually go in there with them to make sure that they're completing it. And if it's in a side application, for example, if they can't fill it out until after they're accepted, we have a reminder on our checklist to go to that student and say, hey, you need to make sure this is done. All right, you haven't gotten it done? Okay, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna do it right now. That's the kind of level we get to, and that's why I always say shout out to my team, because Anita, Esmeralda, and myself are working with the seniors on doing all of that. We'll continue it with next year's class, and then Islan, Esmeralda, and myself jump in with freshmen, sophomores, whatever program we can see in the long-term helping the student, we'll get there with them. But each university has its own program. That's why it's kind of hard to list them all. Even a school like Ohio State has what's known as the Moral Scholars. If they're able to get in, they're able to get a full financial aid package, and sometimes it does reduce the requirements as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Daniel, my mentee sent me a copy of her college admissions tracker. I texted it
Mhm.
and I asked her how she knew all this stuff about the migrant, about the first generation, she says, oh, your team is really helping them with all of it. So she was spouting off all of the opportunities she would have, even though her SAT scores and ACT scores are not that good. So,
Yeah.
so thank you for
Yeah.
your team.
Yeah. My team is awesome. They make my life a whole lot easier, and it's all about the kids at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, as soon as all the students are done, I'll start scanning them and I'll start sending them to all of you, so that way you could see where your junior is at and you can start giving them a little bit of advice. In some situations as well, this also helps with students say that, you know, the school isn't a realistic option for you. For some cases, for example, we had a senior this year who his dream was US. It always has been, but unfortunately he just didn't have the test scores to qualify. That's where we'll sit down with them ahead of time saying, you know, this is what you're looking at. This is the gap that you have. We're not trying to crush their spirit. We're trying to tell them, you know, yes, apply, fill out your application, but have a backup plan just in case. That includes the FSWs, the ITECs, the FGCUs. If in the chance that they do get accepted, then yeah, congratulations, it's awesome. But we do like to give those students just that mental preparation time to say, you know what, maybe I won't get in, because we don't want them to get hit as hard as it would happen. So for example, my career student, if he hasn't improved his test scores yet or his GPA to the level to be guaranteed admission at UCF, we'll have that one-on-one conversation with him to say, you know, this is kind of where you stand, you know, this is your gap. Yes, you have a shot because schools always take in students below that middle average 50%, but you just never know. So we'll have those conversations with them as well.
Daniel, if I may just let the group know what I have seen too in the past is students will typically get their letters. I had somebody last year that they didn't get, although they didn't get accepted during the fall term, they got accepted in the springtime. So it may not have been right away where they're joining everybody at the same time as they graduate, right, their fall term, but they are accepting those students that maybe are not there yet, but they're accepting them in the spring term. So that's what I've seen too.
Yeah, and to add on to that, sometimes the students will also get accepted into the summer term before that initial fall semester. They'll have them take a class or two to get ready for it, which is why it's also beneficial for us to do the FAFSA with students and parents ahead of time before their official senior one starts, because if they begin in the fall term, they need that FAFSA to get financial aid.
Daniel, I have a question.
Go ahead, Paula.
Are you seeing now, or do you anticipate seeing any significant impact on the kids and their applications to colleges as a result of all the pushback on DEI and everything?
So I haven't foreseen anything yet. What I will say is that all the admissions representatives that we speak to say, for now, we're going to keep chugging along. We're going to keep doing what we do. And if that fight ever lands on our door, then they're going to take it to the level that they need to take it to. I haven't seen anything, for example, one of the big worries was with federal grants being frozen and everything like that. Most of the students started worrying about the federal Pell Grant, especially our college kids. Luckily, a judge was able to block that. But what we're telling the students now is, you know, you just keep chugging along, you keep doing your classes. For right now, you're okay. If that situation arises, we have a vast majority of resources to help them with. The other day, legal aid came to speak to our staff and a few other community organization staff members here at our campus to let us, to kind of give us a breakdown of everything that's been sent out, what to take from it, and also what to expect from it. So we have that information in our head as well. We're trying to put together a summary to send out to mentors and to students, because we know there's a million questions out there. We're also just not trying to have anything target our students. So we're trying to be very careful about it. If your student has ever mentioned to you that they're worried or scared, please let me know so that we can connect with them. Sometimes they're a little bit more comfortable sharing that side with you. What I do say though is don't bring it up on your own, because it is right now a very sensitive topic to all the students. Maybe not to their direct family, maybe to their direct family, but it could also be cousins or relatives or people that they know in Immokalee or in other states. So I definitely say don't bring it up yourself, but if your student talks to you about it, then feel free to be honest with them and let us know so that we can connect them with the right resources.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions before I keep going? All right. So with that college admission score tracker, you'll also be able to see where your students at in terms of bright futures. So once I have that score tracker, I'll send it all out and I'll be able to share it. If you're a junior, I sent it in the last Mentor Zoom recap, but if your junior is participating in the Leadership Academy, it's this upcoming Monday. Transportation is provided. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. And I just learned this morning that the person who's putting together the workshop actually got additional funding and grants. So there's going to be some games and some prizes and some rewards for those students. Well, they'll actually be able to win some stuff and take it home. As always, we're tracking GPA, dual enrollment GPA as well. If your junior said that they were taking classes with FSW or FGCU, ask them how their first semester went. We've been getting their transcripts and collecting them so that the college team can also give them advice on their courses. But this is officially the first semester that most of them will have gotten a class with GPA if they haven't gotten one before. We're in the process right now of collecting the desired majors and careers. We're still working on some SAT and ACT registrations. There's a few students who have been having trouble with their waivers from the high school. We're working with the counseling team to get that done. And as I shared, FSA IDs, we're collecting all those so that way the students have them somewhere safe and secure. And of course, we're checking English time spent. Esmeralda got a donation the other day where she's actually going to use it as a prize with students. So she got one donation of some Beats headphones and another of a laptop. So the sophomores and juniors are doing a combination of most time spent and most questions answered to give the prize out to a student. So the students heard about that and they're a little bit more motivated now that they know that they can get something physical. Like I shared before, sometimes it's not just the test score that motivates them, it's that physical item. If you'd like to meet with your mentee out here in person, these are the Saturdays available. One of those Saturdays is March 1st, where we'll see all of you at the picnic. But if you'd like to meet with your mentee out here at our campus between 9 and 1, you're more than welcome to join. And my last one, any questions at all, anything that I didn't hit, anything that anyone is curious about? I'll also share, I sent out an email yesterday on behalf of Elizabeth and the team and Dawn, the COPE experience, sorry, Elizabeth, what's the acronym stand for? Child of Poverty Experience?
Yeah, the cost of poverty.
Cost of Poverty Experience. So if you've never done one before, it's very insightful into knowing what it's like for a parent or a student to go through that. There are both sides. For some, you get to play a parent experiencing it, and for others, you get to play a child experiencing it, but you get to see firsthand what they go through. And all the stories that are used are actual people. So they gave their time, they gave their energy to share those stories so that other people could know what it was like for them. If you're available and you're interested, let Elizabeth or myself know, and then she can have to get registered. Any other questions about anything I may not have hit or anything you're curious about?
Yeah,
Nancy?
Daniel. Yeah, the dinner next Thursday at Immokalee. Can you talk a little bit about that? What time it starts?
So the dinner next Thursday is for our sophomores and their mentors. That one is going to start at 6 p.m. Our sophomores are actually going to talk about the careers they've been researching with Esmeralda. They're going to talk about the majors, jobs, and schools that they can go to and things that they've learned along the way.
So last month, I think, was the junior dinner. We couldn't make that. That's why I wanted to confirm, is Abigail and her parents coming on Thursday?
I am quite confident she is, but I'm gonna make a follow-up note to myself so I can double check.
Okay, thank you. And then is there anything that we should know about the dinner or how it works?
So for our sophomore one, this is the first time we're doing something a little new, where they're gonna actually present on their career project. So that way they can show their mentor and their parent, what they've been researching. But since Abigail's a junior, she wouldn't have done that, but you'll be able to see what the sophomores did and talk to Abigail a little bit about the research she's been doing on careers. Because for the juniors, it's more just finding out more, not so much putting it in a presentation to guess.
And their parents will be there as well?
Yes.
Daniel, this is Carol. Is the COPE, is that session next week open to others? Like, would we be able to share that? Or is it just for Guadalupe?
Carol,
Please.
we do have some other spots available, so you're more than welcome to extend the invite to another friend.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. You're welcome.
And Daniel, can we set up time with you, maybe just a very brief discussion about where we are with our mentors, if we have things that we think deserve consideration or attention?
Yeah, of course. If you ever feel like you need to talk, send me an email or a text. If
Yeah.
I'm not able to call you right away, I'll let you know what day and time I can call you. Typically, it's always within a day or so.
Yeah, great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Carol, again, I think that prompted Michael's question just now. Will we have, as the school year ends, is there routinely an opportunity for us to kind of get an end of year update, or with either you or I know my Jocelyn talks a lot about Esmeralda, just so we can hear from your perspective kind of how the year went and any suggestions you might have of areas to focus on, because we're here year round. We continue to stay in touch. We visit with her over the summer. So just wondering if that year end, if there's kind of a feedback loop that happens then.
So we haven't done that before, but that's a great idea, Carol. So I'm gonna write it down and see how we can make it happen logistically, because I love that idea. So I'll talk with my team, and hopefully we'll be able to. The way I envision it right now is we'll be able to let mentors know their student, their grade, what they've been doing GPA, test score wise, career wise, how they kind of finished off the year with a little note. But that's first thoughts. So I'll get with my team and probably think it through.
Great, thank you.
And since there are no other questions, we can take a quick water restroom break. Esmeralda is at the high school with the students to help them get onto the Zoom. For those of you who asked for a breakout room, if you didn't send me an email or text, drop something in the chat and I can get something out to your kiddo right away. But thank you everyone for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.